In terms of the way things break down, this is the way I always try and explain it to people, that all of the animal products, when it's broken down, that's kind of the poop, if you like.
Mm.
And then all the plants you find in there, you actually find the plants intact. If you partially chew a mushroom and you swallow that mushroom, the same goes for pineapple, mango, celery, nuts, obviously. However you swallow that, that is exactly the state it's going to remain in all the way through your system. It just doesn't break down. I've
Wow.
had
This is revelatory. Today, I interview Lee, who's been on the carnivore diet for 8 months now. I was very excited to do this interview, and I think you'll get a lot from it. Just before we get started, a word from today's sponsor, the subscribe button. I've got a goal of getting to 50,000 subscribers by the end of April. And I'd love it if you could join me by taking the split second right now to smash the subscribe button, and let's get to that 50k goal together. Thank you so much. Let's get into it with Lee. Lee, thank you so much for coming on. Tell us a little bit about how you got onto carnivore.
Yeah, sure, no worries. So my name's Lee. Everyone calls me Kent, hence the name Kent Carnivore. It's not a problem. I live in Kent. That's the Garden of England here. I just went with that name because I don't know any other carnivores around here. But basically, I guess my story starts in 2012, where I had my first health blip and got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. So it's an inflammatory bowel disease, exclusively affected my colon. And I was medication free until 2014. Went back to the doctors when things got worse, and they basically put me on these oral meds that slow down frequencies of bowel movements and things like that. And so it felt like it helped. It felt like it was kind of mending me somewhat. But the truth is, 3 years later, the disease had spread from, the beginning to the end of my colon, and there was no sort of saving any of it. It all had to go. So again, just shows, we go to the doctors, and it's kind of like for a lot of us, a downward spiral with our health. If we get diagnosed and they just treat it with meds, it seems to be a bit of an issue. It doesn't work in curing and addressing the problem the way it should. So I felt like I was relieved somewhat of symptoms. I wasn't flaring as much, but obviously I was eating what I believe all the wrong foods for IBD, which was just mostly carbohydrates, very fibrous foods, even things I consider to be healthy, like fruits and vegetables, grains and legumes, very fibrous stuff. So that was just inflaming my gut, and it caused me to lose it. So this actually ended up, I came home after the surgery and it just basically mentally hit me. So I went downhill massively with my mental health, and I just sort of went up and down with episodes of depression. It was strange, really, because I didn't feel terrible in the hospital. I felt like it was all fine. I was in the right place and I was mended. I felt like I wasn't in that troubled state where it felt like poison or something, that they took that out, the problem had gone. But I went home and I was just pretty much on my own there, with this kind of reality check where everything changed. The way you sleep, the way you have to kind of prep in mind of whatever you're going to do that day, work, or you just have to be kind of organized. And yeah, it just took some getting used to. But even though I did get used to it, I went back to work. I even met my past partner, Lucy, who we're still together. Very lucky to be with her. She's been massively supportive. It just didn't stop my depression from really hitting me hard. So I would come home from work and I would kind of freeze. Didn't know what kind of days I would have from one to the next. There would be very kind of just unpredictable, really. I didn't know what kind of me I was going to be, how life would feel, and just kind of coped with it as best as I could, up to the point where I was quite desperate. In the end, I had to reach out for help, and it's something I didn't want to do, because at that point I did realize meds aren't going to work. They're not sustainable. It's not going to cure the issue, but I don't know what's going to happen with me if I don't get help. There were some pretty dark thoughts and dark times for me, and got on the phone, called these people up, and there was like this process that I kind of, we basically tried to figure out how to treat me. And I was quite clear about medication, things like that. They were suggesting therapy and things like this. And they were just refining like all the details down so that they could get a good idea of how they want to treat me. And so I was expecting this call, and these other people, like a higher unit, they were going to get in contact with me and arrange perhaps meeting and putting something in place. And I just didn't get a call from anybody for quite a while. And at first it was like days and weeks. It wasn't the end of the world. I felt somewhat better just addressing the problem. I felt like, at least we're going to get somewhere with this. I felt that it was instant relief. I guess I wasn't like seriously in trouble with my mental health in that very moment. But a couple of months went by and I hadn't heard anything from them. I couldn't call them back because the numbers were strange. And I was sitting on the couch watching YouTube, and Michaela Peterson's anecdote popped up, and I ended up viewing that, and I just couldn't believe it. It's not like I thought it was a sign necessarily, but I definitely took it as an opportunity, this whole carnivore concept, because she talked about her mental problems and her mental health, also, autoimmune issues and things like this that had all just miraculously been eradicated, or at least 90% improved. So I just thought, I have to try this. I'm desperate. I'm willing to try anything. Spoke to Lucy about it, and we decided to both give it a go, just as a way of support, I guess, from her. So we went to the shops, grabbed some bacon and beef and butter and eggs, and that was it. We did the BBBE challenge for the first 30 days. And yeah, it was hard. It was definitely difficult, kicking the carbs and all the habitual associations with snacking, even the drinks, orange juices and colourful sweet teas or whatever it might be. It was just knocking it all on the head, giving it up. And it was at 3 weeks when I couldn't believe that my depression had just lifted. It was crazy. I mean, I'm quite skeptical about certain things, and I honestly I don't know if I 100% believed in it, but I took a leap of faith. I obviously believed in it somewhat. I was kind of waiting for certain things to happen. But it was 3 weeks later. My depression was gone, and I couldn't believe it. I felt incredible, happy, like smiling for the first time. Like you're aware when you're smiling, you know what I mean? And that day it was just like, why am I smiling so much? And I have all this energy. I feel incredible. Pulled over. I was at work, pulled over and just decided to record my testimony because, yeah, it was just unbelievable. So profound. I'd already had countless other problems that had just been eradicated. But because I was waiting for the depression to go, it's like, if this depression isn't kind of dealt with, then I don't know. But it happened. So there you go.
So that first video on your channel, that's like that's at that 3 week point where you just pulled over then and recorded it.
Yeah. I think I have a video of me in the van. That was like the very first. I didn't even have a YouTube. All I had was Facebook at the time, and it was just I just wanted to record it. Just wanted to document it. It was one of those very surreal moments, in your life. You're like, this is my reality, and this is how I feel now. I hadn't felt like that for so long. I mean, I only liken it really to being a young child. It's the kind of happiness that you feel when you're a child, when you don't know about the world and you're very innocent and the way you see things. And it's for some reason, I think it must be just the way you learn to cope. It's the fog lifts and everything just seems easier, lighter, to move around the world, and to get up in the morning to solve a problem wasn't an issue anymore. It was like, I don't know, it became second nature. Maybe the way a lot of people feel like life is already for them. I don't know. It's just that I'd suffered for so long that I didn't know what to expect, but I was just waiting, and all of a sudden, boom, there you go.
And was it like that? Was it almost an overnight thing, or did you notice something kind of creeping up gradually?
I had a few days where I felt much better. I mean, at first I was quite aware of the carbohydrate withdrawal. So if anything, the first like 5 days to a week was just torture. In a way, it was pretty hard. I do like eating eggs and beef and that, but I'd certainly missed that sweet, or the finishing it with a dessert or having orange juice or something like that. I was pretty bad on orange juice. But I certainly went up and down here and there. But it was like all at once. Yeah, it was like gradually here and there, but then all at once. And ever since that day, I mean, I don't know whether it's something that is like the way I'm choosing to look at my life. I really don't know, but I mean, that day, from that day, I've not had any kind of mental issues that are even remotely close to how I felt every day. And I've been pretty strict about not having cheat days or slipping up, just because, I mean, I'm probably quite scared. I'm probably quite scared to eat carbohydrates. But at the same time, I just feel like I've got to be smart about it too. You know, I have my life back. I have a life. I can, you know, get up and go to work and have a full life, my family, my hobbies, my passions. Why would I want to go and mess that up by potentially trying to figure out what was the biggest culprit? You know, can I get away with grains here and there? Can I get away? You know, I just wasn't, and I'm not going to deviate. That's my plan. I'm pretty focused on feeling this great all the time, really.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of concerns me as well. You know, I always think, you know, I could probably try something and see if I do okay on it, but I'm just worried I'm just going to be wrecked if I try.
Yeah. And I think it's difficult, I know, because I have racked my brain over this numerous times. I mean, I had an inflammatory bowel disease, so my gut, I was very sensitive with gut health. And I realized that potentially that caused my mental problems. But then we took my gut out and I still felt that way. And so it's difficult to really know whether it was, you know, just fiber was a problem for me while I had colitis, but potentially every single carbohydrate was a problem for me with mental health. I really don't know, but I'm not really interested in finding out. I'm too happy. I feel too good just eating beef and eggs and occasionally fish and some raw dairy, you know. So I have a full life. I have no reason to, and I genuinely don't think about these things anymore. For a while, you know, I would say 3 months, there was definitely associations, smells. I don't know if you experienced this, but when you go for so long, because I think you're like a month ahead of me. How long is it for you? 9 months?
9 months, yeah.
So I'm around 8 months now, pretty much spot on. And this is stopped for me now, but I would say between sort of 3 and 6 months, I was getting all of these like flavors coming to mind, things I used to eat that I actually didn't even remember eating, you know, things that I would eat as a child, like really young. I would just get like a random flavor and think, oh, wow, that's that thing that I used to eat. And I think it's because I wasn't eating anything remotely like it, nothing sweet. It was really strange. For a long time, I would smell or get like a taste, and it was obviously my imagination or a combination of senses that come together. Would tease me with these sort of foods that I forgot that even existed, you know. But it's funny because I smell things all the time, but you know they're not your foods anymore. You don't eat those things.
I've noticed over time, like I have had that in the past, but I notice over time what's happened is, you know, when I actually do smell something like that, you know, where, like, let's say I'm walking past a bread shop or something like that.
That's it.
I actually get a bit of a chemical smell now. It's like, oh God, that's so strong.
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, like Sky. So my partner, her daughter, she's 13, and she's adjusted somewhat her diet just because she's exposed to the information, I guess, and she cares about her health, but she's also a child, so she wants to kind of, you know, eat some cake if she's going to someone's party or something like that. So that's absolutely fine. You know, we're not dogmatic or we're not tyrants. You know, we let her eat pretty much what she wants, but we're just kind of teaching her along the way. She'll always tease me with things that she eats, but I used to kind of be like, oh, you know, get it away from me. But now I'm like, I don't get it. You can wave those things at me. I don't even have any ounce of curiosity. You know, I don't miss those things, those flavors, those tastes. A lot of it looks weird. All the strange colors and the icing and the sprinkles or the cereal, like that stuff looks so weird to me now. It just doesn't even make sense. But
I get that when I go into Starbucks, you know, and you look at all the stuff in the display case and it's like, this looks a bit odd now.
Yeah. What is that? Like, I think someone made it in a lab with something.
Yeah. So exactly. So do you feel stronger that you've got that self-control that you just like, This
Yeah,
means
yeah, yeah.
nothing to me now.
Yeah, no, I honestly, I'm like super, I feel like really lucky to be in this
Mm,
position right now because I used to be a binge eater. I mean, I don't know if I really talk about this that much, but I would binge eat. I would even pin my happiness on that meal that day. You know what I mean? Or the
mm,
takeaway later that I want to get, or I would drink and eat all of these enjoyment foods. It was just a in the moment enjoyment experience for me. I wasn't really eating for nourishment so much, and I didn't even
mm.
consider that I ate bad diet. But yeah, I don't know really. What was sorry? What was your, what was your
Uh,
question?
so, uh, um, I was talking about like, do you feel like you got a sense of more
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
feeling
Oh, yeah.
stronger or something now?
Yeah, I
Um,
just love the fact that I'm in this position that I've knocked them all on the head. You know, I realised I
mm,
was definitely a carbohydrate addict, like majority of people, I believe.
mm,
And I'm not addicted to that anymore. That I don't get sort of this calling from the fridge or a cupboard or something like that. I can walk into a store and just grab my meat. I don't
yeah.
have to feel like I'm missing out. I feel like I'm not missing out. It's the opposite. It's like I'm not missing. Like you guys are missing out.
So this was something I wanted to talk about a little bit later, but I'm actually going to bring it up now because it's kind of relevant to that first video that you made in the car and what you've just said there.
Right.
Um, One of the things that you said in that video, I really enjoyed, like the comment. I thought, yes, that's exactly it. And I wrote this, I wrote my memory of it down,
All right.
but it was something like, you were talking about how kind of maybe some people would say, "Oh, don't you feel like you're missing out?" or something like that, on all these luxurious kind of carbohydrate laden foods. And
Mm.
I think what you said was something like, even if I'm missing out on these foods, I'm now able to enjoy 99% of every
Oh
day.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And that
That,
just struck me as, yeah, that's exactly right. Like nothing else really matters because you get almost 100% out of every day now.
yeah, and it's like flipping it around. So this
Mm,
is what I mean when I would pin my happiness on this. It's like how long does it take to eat a few meals? They're minutes worth of happiness, right? But the
mm,
rest of the day, I'm kind of in pain with thinking about it. I'm craving it. I'm crashing with sugar and energy. None of it's sustainable. It doesn't feel good. I felt like I was berating myself mentally and physically in those moments as well. You kind of almost like thinking of how do I feel the time? You know, like you're just thinking about food all the time, and you're just not productive. Where now, I mean, at first, just say like it took me 10 minutes a day to eat. So just say that those 10 minutes were miserable, but the the other, 23 hours and 50 minutes were great. I mean, that's still a sacrifice worth making. But it's strange. I love eating now more than ever. I don't know what it is. It's when you have a nice steak, you're cooking things just right. I mean, I'm real passionate about it. I love the way my food tastes, and you can vary it. There's nothing restricting about it whatsoever. You can absolutely mix it up, keep it kind of different every day, and that never gets boring for me.
mm,
But I think really the truth is like what you're saying. It's that time around your food that's maximized now, and mentally, I'm just clearer and happier and way more energy, way more productive, solving more issues and problems, and that makes you feel good in itself because you're addressing all these things. Like that's another thing. It's a roll on effect.
mm. What is a day of eating like for you now?
So I mean, I'm probably slightly different to a lot of other carnivores where I've got an ostomy bag. I've tried one meal a day, and I can get away with it, but I don't feel optimal. So I can feel like I'm almost on a mini fast sometimes if I restrict myself to one meal a day. And that's just because I don't have a colon. So I run low on certain nutrients, B12 and electrolytes and things like that. And so I found that 2 meals a day is better for me. So I usually eat breakfast around about 7 in the morning every day. And then I'll usually eat around about 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. again. So it's roughly 12-hour intervals. And in terms of what I eat, usually ribeye steaks and eggs. Sometimes if I'm in a hurry, I'll just have a ton of eggs. Um, but I do also eat raw cheese. And at the moment, just as a temporary tool, I'm drinking raw milk. So I've got another surgery coming up. I'm still waiting on dates, and this surgery is basically to address what they've left during the previous surgery. So they've removed all of it except for 5 centimeters, and they actually have to remove that and my anus, unfortunately, because of potential cancer and things like that. Obviously, it's just like long-term systemic inflammation potentially down there, causing some potential issues with cancer production and that kind of thing. So that it's been a problem for 10 years, so it definitely needs to go. So that's why I'm drinking milk, is to hopefully gain weight, to have a reserve, so that when I'm going through this surgery, I have a reserve. I just have some saturated fat my body can use while I'm laid out, not eating much, because there's probably going to be a week where I'm not going to be having any food whatsoever. So yeah, the milk is kind of like my main drink at the moment. When I drink raw milk, I don't require hardly any water. It's basically 87% water, I think, milk. But that's it. But I would say once a week I have salmon, and I'll have things like short ribs and oxtail in the slow cooker, things like that.
Regarding you've got to go and have this this surgery to have the what they've left removed. Going back to the original one, did they ever tell you like what's the cause?
No, nobody ever spoke to me. Do you know, there was the very first doctor I saw, so I hadn't even been diagnosed yet. The very first doctor I saw said to me, if you think it's bowel cancer, you can forget it. That was the first thing my doctor said. Saw a second doctor after I'd been diagnosed. He suggested drinking a beer a night. Can you believe? Drink a beer a night. That will help with, these consistent, easy bowel movements or something, basically. I think is his logic behind that. Yeah, I mean, it's just nuts. Other than that, I've seen 2 other doctors and about 2 surgeons, and not one of them had ever spoken to me about food, diet. They didn't challenge what I ate. They didn't ask me how many meals I ate, or do I drink alcohol, anything like that. Absolutely nothing. They just said it's an inflammatory bowel disease. It's an autoimmune disease. It's hereditary. We have drugs for that, basically, is what they said. And I've gone to and from doctors and surgeons, and they just don't talk about food. They don't acknowledge the diet, and that's potentially the main issue. I mean, when you're talking about your digestive tract, you'd think that is the number one question on the list. What do you eat? Let's just go through a few things, because we know some things about certain foods, and this might cause you a problem, or maybe reduce that a little bit. Nothing. Madness. I don't understand. If I was a doctor, I mean, I'm pretty sure that would be the first thing I would put to that patient.
So yeah, I mean, that seems, the more I've heard about doctors and stuff since I've been on this diet, because obviously I'm much more interested in it now, the more I feel like there's just no one's thinking about diet.
Yeah, it is strange. I mean, it's obviously just the way they're trained. They're not dietitians or nutritionists, and even if they were, they would be learning a lot of the wrong information, as we all know, like the guidelines and what we base our information off, what we feed the army or the soldiers and the troops and women and infant children. All of these things, it's just based off guidelines, and all of that stuff's wrong. Even the RDAs are based around the fact that we're probably consuming roughly 60% carbohydrates. So everything's off, everything's inaccurate, and therefore it's absolutely not helpful. It's really confusing. And then, yeah, I don't know. I mean, why would doctors even want to try and get involved in that? They're trained to address meds and prescribe, and they ask the next ones to come, and they have drugs for that. Whatever problem it is, they've got a magic pill.
I think that's the scariest thing, that the comment from him was, "We've got drugs for that." It's
yeah. Like that. Yeah. And the funny thing is that at the time, I mean, that was kind of what I wanted to hear, in a way, not because I wanted an easy way out or something like that. It's just the way I think everybody thinks. We don't think any other way. We have a problem, we call the doctors. He's going to help us via medication of some sort, and it might be long term, it might be short term, 1 course, 2 courses, but this is what we do when we're sick. And it's totally wrong. doesn't really make a lot of sense, because often a lot of these things that we take, they're eradicating the thing that the body's producing to protect you in the first place. So often these symptoms are just a sign that your body's doing something it should. And what we do then is we go to doctors and he gives something to suppress that. And these things come back with vengeance. You can't suppress these things. It's absolutely mad to do that.
You mentioned before the primary reason for you getting started on carnivore was you saw Michaela Peterson's video, and it helps you with your depression. What other changes have you noticed?
Oh, countless. So I mean, the first very day that I went carnivore, I would basically get acid reflux every day around 6 or 7 p.m. It was just like a routine thing, and I'd kind of adjusted and got used to it. 6 or 7 p.m. came along and I wasn't getting acid reflux. That was the very next day, and I haven't had even a slight symptom of acid reflux. I would get that every single day. I would take sort of Gaviscon and over-the-counter things for that. It wasn't too serious. I mean, I've heard that some people take some pretty serious medications for those things. But that was the first thing I noticed. So for the last 8 months, no acid reflux. The second thing I noticed after I kind of got over the carbohydrate withdrawal, if you like, was skin conditions and energy. So I had some acne on my back, and I had a lot of kind of, I don't know really what you would call it, but itchy, reddy, inconsistent tone on my face. I would have kind of like the classic T-zone, like red and certain irritations, and my skin has just massively improved. I don't burn in the sun. I don't sweat so much anymore. Yeah, I really don't sweat anymore. I mean, so when I went carnivore, I think we were just due this really hot kind of spell here in the UK. I was just perhaps 3 or 4 weeks in at this point, and I was working with another guy outside, so we both clean windows. And I took this fella Tom with me, and it was a hot day. And usually, I'm really pale. I would burn in the sun, and I would sweat buckets and be just suffering in the heat, basically outside. And I look at Tom, and he's all red, and he's all flustered, and he's just dripping buckets. And I remember just taking my hat off and feeling my head, and I thought, I'm not sweating. I'm not. This is really weird. Usually I'll be the one that suffers. And this just continued. Like, we went to Jersey. Me and Lucy went to Jersey to attend her sister's wedding, and it was a really hot day. Went for this really long walk. Same thing again. She deviated now. She was like, when in Rome, I'm going to enjoy the wedding. And I was like, I can't afford to. So we went on this really long walk, wore vest and shorts. She came back burnt, and I was just exactly the same. Hadn't even dripped an ounce of sweat, absolutely nothing. So I don't sweat, I don't burn. I don't seem to have to brush my teeth as much, don't get acid reflux, have way more energy. Sleep has improved, though I still have some maintenance issues with sleep. Yeah, just my outlook, obviously. Depression was the main thing, but countless. There's probably a few other things that I can't think of right now, but so many benefits.
Yeah. Oh, nice. So you said that Lucy had deviated. Has she come back?
So it's funny. So what she did, she went carnivore for the first 30 days. And then what I did to change after the BBBE was just introduce raw cheese and salmon. That was the only thing that I tweaked, and I've stayed on track. Where Lucy didn't really suffer from anything really pressing or chronic. She was just like what they call pre-diabetes, right? Pre-diabetic. Her blood glucose is just spot on every day now. But yeah, carnivore for the first 30 days, and then she introduced both cheese and then some other things. So what you perhaps consider to be safe ketogenic plant options. So olives, avocado. She would have some cucumber without the skin and seeds often. I'm trying to think what else. Sourdough bread here and there. That's mostly it. Also in the summer, we were eating, strawberries and things like that. Me less so, I wasn't really doing that. But she'd have berries, and obviously she feeds Sky, and Sky would kind of participate in a lot of those foods. So olives and avocado, strawberries, along with ham and cheese and things like that. Eggs, she loves eggs. But she's noticed a few changes when she kind of cheats a little bit more. So the more plant she eats, the more gripes and gas and just like irritation in the gut, somewhat, digestive related problems, they come back. and then it takes about 2 or 3 days of going back, getting back to a strict ketogenic diet, or carnivore for a few days here and there, to reset almost. So it's funny that she said to me, if anything, we went on this wedding, that it was worth her deviating, because it made her realize that it's not worth it. In a way, it's actually not even worth it for her, and it certainly wouldn't be for me. I've got far more to lose in terms of the life I'm living right now, I feel like. But even Lucy's like, it's not worth it. It's not worth having that pizza or whatever it might be. She has coffees. I have absolutely nothing, no teas or coffees or anything.
So you're like 100%. There's no plant material at all.
No, absolutely nothing. I don't drink teas or coffee. I never have been a tea or coffee drinker, so that was quite nice for me. I know a lot of people struggle with that. My problem was alcohol, so that was the very first thing I gave up, actually. As soon as I got off of the phone with that person that I was speaking to address treatment for my mental health, that's the day I gave up alcohol. And so there was like 2 months before Carnivore where I was alcohol free, and then I just jumped straight in, which I wouldn't recommend to anybody, really. I would certainly say, get rid of highly processed, then perhaps grains, then fruits, then veg, then you carnivore, stuff like that. But yeah, I'm 100%. I don't really plan on deviating unless I have to, unless one day that there's no meat available to purchase,
So how was it giving up the alcohol? Like, was that tough?
It was hard, actually. That was hard. I think I drank because I was depressed. Even if I didn't realize that I was depressed all the time, I think mentally I was in like this deteriorated state. I was on a decline trend, if you like, with my mental health. And I think that I used alcohol far too frequently. I was aware that I was using it for the wrong reasons, but it always seemed to work, like, because you have a problem, you have a drink, it lowers your anxiety, and that chapter closes, and you sort of don't have to deal with that more. And it just seemed to be this vicious cycle, of course. And I mean, I could come home from work occasionally and think about having a beer, and what's it going to be after work, before sleep, in the morning, and that's when I realized I've got to do something about this. And the person on the phone actually said that, do you drink? And yes, I do. And we associate these kinds of things, and I can understand that. Again, it's suppressing the problem, and that's only going to make it worse. So I realized, cut that out. And yeah, very difficult it was, because it would be a nightly thing for me. Even if it was just 2 or 3 beers, that was pretty much every night. It would help sedate me into sleep. So that was something I'm having to face for the first time, going to sleep without being sedated, and just dealing with problems. So something bad would happen, it's not terrible, but just something where you'd usually go and grab a drink, and you're having to stay strong mentally without the help with your little friend there that you don't call anymore, kind of thing. So yeah, it took some time. Definitely, it was just all the associations. I'll put on a program that I would always drink a beer to, and I was like, oh, it's just not quite the same. So it was kicking all of those associations, disconnecting from those, which was the hardest thing. And that did take almost 2 months, I would say. And then Carnivore came along, and that was consuming me, because that was hard. And so I'd kind of forgotten about the booze. Made that easier.
Yeah, I think once you can get into Carnivore, that gives you the strength to, again, not even the same as with the carbohydrate stuff and whatever, just to be able to completely disconnect from it and go, I feel nothing now, right?
Definitely. I agree. Definitely.
If I'm not saying this correctly, please correct me. So what you have now is an ostomy bag. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
No, go on. I was just going to say I had ileostomy surgery. It's an ostomy bag. Some people have like colectomy. They left obviously what they left as an option, but it's so small and problematic. I mean, I genuinely have no options. It just has to go. But yeah, it's a permanent situation for me. There's no reverse. I'm always going to have to live with this ostomy bag.
Okay. So has anything changed or improved in relation to your daily life with that since you went on Carnivore?
Yeah, definitely. So, and I of all people should have known this really, but I was consuming carbohydrates while I had this bag, obviously, and I consumed all kinds of carbohydrates. But I would say that certain vegetables and fruits were still causing me problems because of the nature of the surgery, the way they're having to fashion your small intestine and your ileum, and that now turns this aggressive corner, and it's like punching through your abdominal wall. That's where then you stick your bag over the top, and that's how that works. Because of this corner, there's a lot of fiber in some of these plants that would obstruct me and have trouble kind of traveling around this corner. And so I actually had a few obstructions. One with my partner in Venice, which was just strange timing, really. I had this kind of like rabbity side salad. It was all raw, so it was like celeriac, cabbage, and carrots all grated up, and that was just horrific. My whole it's like I was asleep, so I didn't even really realize, but it would obviously clog me up so much, so badly, that now things aren't moving at the end, and my stomach was kind of like folding over itself. And I woke up with this very strange feeling, and I looked down, and I almost couldn't recognize it. Went to the bathroom and kind of like looked at the reflection in the mirror to try and figure out what the hell just happened. And I had to almost pull my stomach back over the bag, where it kind of, because nothing was coming out. Yeah, it was really strange. It didn't hurt that much, but it just felt really weird. And I had to kind of almost pull my stomach up over the bag, and I've never had a problem like that since. But yeah, when you eat nothing but meat, nothing like that ever happens. You could even swallow big chunks of meat, and your acid in your stomach just takes care of it. It's absolutely no problem. So it's super non-inflammatory. It's all broken down effortlessly, and it just causes no problems. I'm actually not aware when it works. Where when I used to consume carbohydrates, you can pinpoint where your food is, because you have these different sensations the way your abs would perhaps react. And there were two other obstructions I had. One was brown rice and broccoli. I had with chicken and added salt, but it was the brown rice and the broccoli that almost, like, again, same situation, creates like this cement paste. It's so thick and it doesn't break down. It's honestly just, it's a real issue. Fiber, I really believe, is a real issue for people's gut health, which is the complete opposite of what the powers that be are telling us, doctors and dietitians.
But the amazing thing now is you can actually see the result. You can literally see the result of fiber, what fiber is doing to you, and what meat does or doesn't do to you.
Yeah, it's a really strange thing, because when I came out, so what the bag, you can't see anything on the front. It's very kind of inoffensive, but you have this little inspection window, if you like. And so you can see, and when you're emptying it, obviously you can see. In terms of the way things break down, this is the way I always try and explain it to people, that all of the animal products, when it's broken down, that's kind of the poop, if you like. And then all the plants you find in there, you actually find the plants intact. If you partially chew a mushroom and you swallow that mushroom, the same goes for pineapple, mango, celery, nuts, obviously. However you swallow that is exactly the state it's going to remain in all the way through your system. It just doesn't break down.
Wow.
I've had pizzas with my partner, have a few drinks, and then you're building up your appetite. You order a pizza and there's mushrooms on top. You're obviously, I don't know, getting carried away and just chunking it down kind of thing, and probably swallowing some of these mushrooms. Well, I've had problems where I don't want to offend anyone, but I have to push above the stoma to push the mushroom out, or something like that. The mango, it's really bad. So if you just swallow a whole nut, that nut will come out like a nut. The mushroom will come out like a mushroom. So will certain fruits. If you just bit a strawberry in half, you swallow the strawberry, that half a strawberry, you'll see that later. That won't break down. So first of all, I'm like, what do we get from that? How are we digesting the nutrients in that? I've always thought that with seeds and things, because the seeds, they're just there in the bag. It's really strange. It's like, did I get anything from that seed? I mean, I don't know how that works, but it certainly doesn't break down. So anyone who's got Crohn's and colitis, I would say absolutely should be compulsive about their carbohydrate intake. Be selective if you can. Definitely avoid things like that. You know, onion, celeriac, cabbage, celery, mushrooms, pineapples, strawberries, nuts, seeds. If I was to recommend any carbohydrates for anyone just to be slightly more non-inflammatory, I would say white rice, sourdough bread, avocado, and unfortunately banana. Banana is actually not terrible. It's quite soft, and so it seems to kind of be durable and pliable. It kind of just plays fair with your gut. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not recommending anyone eats bananas.
But that's just, yeah, that's such a amazing
Yeah,
story that you can see what the exact opposite of what, you know, the medical profession and the food industry and whatever is telling us.
yeah. I don't how that's good for your gut. Fiber, I don't know. I can't grasp any logic from that claim. That's mad to me. And the whole microbiome thing, yeah, that's mad. I don't get that at all. I mean, I don't even know if I have one. You know, I've lost my whole colon. I've wondered whether it's sort of relocated in my ileum and my small intestine, partially, all of it, some of it. I don't know, but I feel great. So maybe we don't even need a gut as long as we eat the right diet, you know?
Yeah. Wow. So, you just mentioned, like, for anyone that's got Crohn's or anything like that, you would recommend, like, just be careful with carbs or just cut it out completely.
I personally would try and wean off them completely. But like I say, you got to imagine, for example, like rice, it's not got the inner or outer part of the grain there like brown rice does. So it doesn't have that element that's going to be like super inflammatory in terms of how it doesn't break down. So if you're one of those people that you're just like, you can't function without some level of carbs, I would say potentially white rice, but then you don't want to be having white rice 3 or 5 times a day. I would say you might want to make that one meal. Perhaps wake up and have some eggs, cook it in animal fats, add salt to taste, and then when you get hungry later, have some white rice and have it with, I don't know, fish, dairy, meat, whatever it is. That way you're having a level of carbohydrate. Not that I would ever suggest carbohydrates to anyone for any reason other than if you're one of those people that feels like they just cannot function without them, then perhaps white rice, sourdough bread, avocado, I would say, is a pretty good one. But then you can get quite fibrous parts of an avocado. I would just say you need to be mindful. Just have a look at what it looks like, you know, figure out whether you think that that's going to break down or not. Things like nuts and seeds. That's when more refined carbohydrates are better. You know, if you have an inflammatory bowel disease, that you could almost use that. It's obviously going to spike your blood glucose. It's obviously got certain anti-nutrients in there. But, you know, if you cook your white rice up enough, it's going to be low potentially in toxins. Yep, you're spiking your blood glucose, but maybe do it once a day. That way you can maintain your health and you don't have to lose your colon or your small intestine or something like that, you know. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah. Okay. And sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit, but
No, that's fine.
regarding the diet that you are doing, like, how are family and friends with that? Like, is everyone's pretty accepting or?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously my mum, my dad, they're massively accepting, very supportive. They've just seen a massive change in myself, my nan also. Lucy, again, she wouldn't want it any other way. She doesn't want to have to live with someone who's depressed. There's nothing more selfish, unfortunately. You know, I can say that because I've been there. When you reflect back, it's such a selfish, self-serving state. Even though you're suffering, that's probably why you're thinking about yourself so much. She doesn't want that, so she's very happy that I'm eating carnivore. So is my family and my friends and people at work. You know, they've all noticed differences. There is something that I have not mentioned ever anywhere, right? And I've just sort of done it then. I've never been diagnosed ever, but I do believe I've had Tourette's, a physical version. It's not vocal. You'll see in my videos, if you pay attention, I kind of twitch my shoulder and shake my head or kind of it used to be much worse. I have managed to deal with it a lot better. And a lot of people have said, your twitches are gone, your twitches are gone. They'll watch my videos and be like, you're not twitching. So it's kind of very minimal. It's funny, I've never really mentioned that because I've never been diagnosed. But I see Sean Baker actually interview a young lady about Tourette's. I think she completely cured it. And I think the criteria had to be kind of 2 physical motors and 1 verbal. And I would cough when I didn't even have a cough. Or I would like whatever, do this weird thing, as well as like a couple of physical like motor like twitches. So I do believe I've had Tourette's all my life, ever since I can remember. But that has improved as well, which is interesting.
Oh, nice. That's also that's another life-changing thing, right?
Oh, massively. I would love to get rid of it completely because I can't. I would be a liar to say like I don't. I'm not like, I'm aware of the fact that it's still there. I feel very difficult to describe even what it is and why the body does that. It's almost like, imagine you're cold and, by grabbing a jumper or a sweater and putting that on, that's going to make you feel more comfortable, right? It's that. It's like, I don't feel comfortable, so if I shake my head, that sets that. It's weird. There's no logic behind it. I have no clue, but it's like that. It's a comfort thing. I really don't know how it's manifested, where it comes from, but that has vastly improved. And I've never even spoken about it because I don't even feel like I need to bring it up. But yeah, people have noticed that in me. And so everyone around me, customers that hear about it, because I'm obviously informing them of my surgery. So as a window cleaner, I have quite a few customers, just letting them know in advance they won't see me for a period coming up, like 3 months, I'll be gone. But I'll see you sort of shortly afterwards. And they're hearing about both my health condition for the first time and the diet, and 99% of everyone that hears about it, just from me, brand new, they're all shocked. They think they're just really taken back. They can't even digest the information. Like, you try and explain it and summarize it to even just justify it to someone for the first time, and it's quite difficult to do. So other than the people I know, they a lot of them don't get it. But then there is a few people that I've also helped. Like, there was a guy that I used to see years ago. We got in contact, and he had asked, and he'd noticed changes and things. He asked about the diet, jumped on the diet, and cured his diabetes in like 2 weeks. So it's awesome. That was great. Just the fact that I had found the diet, it meant that it kind of rippled out and helped this old friend of mine, and he hasn't got diabetes anymore. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So
that's fantastic. So we've talked a little bit about this, but if there was someone out there that was, they talked to you, they've seen your good results, they've said, okay, I want to try this, how would you recommend they start?
I would certainly watch different carnivore channels, because that way you're going to perhaps grasp some knowledge on nutrition if you don't already understand sort of basic nutrition. So for me, it was always about macros, and the carbs was a macro, and you'd count calories, and that's just absolutely waste of time. It's just not necessary. Really, all you need to know is, what does the body need, and what is toxic. That way you know what you should and shouldn't eat. And when you understand that everything that the body needs is just found in meat, or is found in eggs, some dairy, some fish, when you put all that together, I mean, you're getting an abundance of these essential nutrients, macro and micro. I would start there. Just get a feel for the carnivore space, that certain people, what they're talking about, foods, perhaps even go and watch what they eat in a day, just to give you an idea. Once you've got that in mind, I would certainly take it slow. I would say definitely cut out highly processed foods, takeaways, going out to eat even. I would say, do that for a couple of weeks, perhaps. I mean, I'm no expert, but perhaps after that, then get rid of grains, maybe even seed oils as well, and start cooking in animal fats with your vegetables and having your fruit, whatever it might be that you have. Drink teas and coffees, and then perhaps take the next, the vegetables out, and then just have your meat and your fruit, and maybe teas and coffees, and then get rid of fruit. Perhaps do these for like 2 or 3 weeks at a time. Why not? Take it real slow, There's no reason why you need to rush into this. You've probably been on this planet for decades already. There's no need to just jump into it tomorrow. I was just absolutely desperate. Really, I can be quite impatient. So, me and Lucy jumped straight in. I wouldn't recommend that necessarily because it was hard. It hit us hard. I think it was just carbohydrate withdrawal, potential oxalate dumping, potential electrolyte problems, just with adjusting, because obviously it's such a radical change. The body's kind of like, wait, what? Slow down. So I would say just take it slow, take out what you deem to be the worst. Most likely is going to be highly processed until you're left with all animal products. And I'm guessing you probably already know whether you can tolerate dairy or not. If you're not sure, I would recommend raw dairy. Raw dairy is so nutritious in comparison. You've got all of the calcium, all of the enzymes, all of the proteins, all of the fats. It's all bioavailable. When you take the enzyme out, lactose can be a problem. You've only got 50% of the calcium and 20% of the proteins left when you pasteurize milk. And if you're only getting like semi-skimmed or skimmed, that's just lactose. It's just kind of like sugary, watery nothingness. It's pointless, really. So yeah, that's what I would say.
And I have a question that I wanted to ask you about something that I've seen you eat in some of your videos.
All right.
Oxtail. What does oxtail taste like?
Oh, it's delicious. It is honestly, it's I liken the fat to short ribs in how it's just such a rich fat. It's even the smell, when you smell it, even when it's raw. I mean, you wouldn't want to eat it raw. I don't think. It's very, very tough. That's why it needs long and slow. But it's just very juicy fat, and you can kind of really tenderize that meat, so you have a nice flavoursome crust, and it's all juicy on the inside. But it's the way the fat seems to be so rich and juicy. It just tastes incredible. It's difficult to really describe how it tastes. It can taste almost sweet to me now.
Oh wow!
I find oxtail, and even short rib can have like a sweet element when you cook it in the slow cooker. It's a little bit like the veal chops that I've had not too long ago. They taste sweet. It's very strange. I mean, a year ago I wouldn't have told you that was sweet in any way, shape, or form. But just the buds have changed, and yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And so you mentioned raw. What's your kind of feeling about that? Are you into raw stuff?
I personally think, I mean, first of all, I've been quite purposely avoiding the politics, if you like. I'm not. I don't want to sort of come out and be dogmatic about one or the other and all this kind of thing. I do believe that there's some people that just take to it better, and naturally they gravitate towards it. It's almost like calling for them, and it just seems to, they enjoy it. It works. It's not a problem. That's great. I personally just think if you're on an animal-based diet, that's great. So whether you're eating raw or not, it's whatever works for you. I have eaten a fair amount of raw foods. A lot of it was down to curiosity, but some of it, as my taste buds have changed, it's like I've been more curious. And sometimes you get so hungry, you're almost like, I could just eat that, I don't know if you felt that way, but that's kind of how it started. And so some of the foods I was just giving a try. I was just trying it. But I definitely would suggest, if you don't like liver, I mean, there's no need to potentially eat, you don't have to eat liver if you don't want to. But if you're like, I kind of want to eat liver, I personally find it's better raw. It's sweeter. It's something about when it's cooked. It's very different in flavour. Absolutely different. Like I find when you smell and taste the liver when it's raw, like lamb's liver, it can almost taste like beetroot and apple. I don't know if other people liken it to that. It's got that kind of sweet element. It's also got that. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's like iron and vitamin C. If you think about like beetroots and things like that. I don't know. It's like similar kind of flavour. I also eat raw bone marrow here and there. I actually feel great on raw bone marrow. So I'll just stick a spoon into the bone and just, it's really nice. And it's also great for your lips as well. Like if you had suffer with dry lips, it's like a chapstick. Yeah, it's great. Honestly, just a little bit of bone marrow. And what else? I mean, obviously my raw milk, raw cheese I love. I only buy unpasteurized cheese now just because I know about the nutrient differences. I'm
Mm.
not saying that that's the same with like meat, because if you're just getting a bit of a crust on the outside, it's nice and juicy in the middle. I mean, I don't see that there's any problem with that whatsoever.
Mm.
You can even cook it, you know, like what Bart K says, you can even cook it all the way through. You know, you're still getting everything because you get your bloods done, your bloods look fine, you haven't got scurvy, you know, all of these things.
Mm.
The only thing I don't take to is eating just like a ribeye steak raw. I mean, I've tried it. I don't enjoy it. It's not pleasure. It's kind of more of a chore. So
Mm.
I cook. Basically, my rule is that I cook my meat. Everything else, I can kind of take either way. I have raw eggs, raw liver, cooked liver, raw bone marrow, cooked bone marrow. It doesn't bother me. But the only thing I will cook is my meat. I don't enjoy that raw. That's just a
Mm.
personal thing.
Oh, nice. I've still got to try some of the stuff raw. You know, I've had bits and pieces raw over the years because I live in Japan, so it's just normal to
Right,
do
right.
it. But the one thing I've always been squeamish about is the raw egg. And that's quite a big
Okay,
thing
yeah,
here, like because they eat sukiyaki, you know, and it's like they dip the beef in the
yeah,
egg and whatever. But I
yeah.
just, yeah, it's something I can't get over
I know what you
the
mean. I
texture, I
remember
think.
feeling a bit. Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. But the funny thing is when you actually sipping it down, you don't. It doesn't. It's not as bad as what you think. You think it's going to be this giant bogey or something. You know, it's
That's
not quite as bad as that.
exactly. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
My advice, if you want to try, my advice is don't see my partner. She'll just swallow the whole thing without trying to kind of like sip through it. And
Uh-huh.
then some people try and gulp it down, and I think that that's when you might be like, oh, it's like a bogey. If you
Mm.
just like put it in a cup, but suck it almost through your teeth, it just
Uh,
like not even a problem. It's like water. It's like you're drinking water. It
mm.
doesn't taste of much. It doesn't taste of anything. It's very refreshing. If anything, it's sort of very hydrating. That's what I do when if I'm like rushed for time or something, and I'm just like, oh, quit. I'll just grab a couple of eggs, put them in a cup, and just sip them down, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was definitely kind of anticipating this horrible texture and everything when I first had it, but now it's just not even a problem. But you don't have to. You don't have to do that. It's not like, it's not the only way to eat eggs.
I've got to try it. Like my wife eats eggs like that all the time. You know,
Right.
she'll have a bowl of rice and then she'll just, you know, she'll crack two raw eggs and pour it on top of the rice, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's funny.
I've
What's
got to
normal to
try it at
some
some
people.
point.
Yeah, yeah. It's actually funny because when I went skiing not too long ago, I was worried about this whole carnival thing, and so we did actually take some things out there. We were quite lucky. We managed to take some meat and all sorts. But once we were there, we were in France, and so if you think about it, they have like tartare and carpaccio or the raw eggs. So yeah, it would be like that. We'd just have the steak and dip it in the egg yolks, which is something I never thought
Ah,
I'd be doing in a restaurant, But you basically had sort of almost raw beef or almost raw beef and some egg yolks raw, and that was how I
mm.
stayed on track. Other than the few bits I managed to get out there.
Oh yeah. Oh nice.
Yeah,
And the steak tartare, is that basically it just kind of looks like mince meat? Is that right? Or
yeah, it
yeah.
does look a lot like mincemeat. I mean, I think it's from a tender cut, probably the
Mm.
tail or fillet, something like that. I think that's carpaccio. That was beautiful, by the way. I'd never ever eaten that before, and it just looked like this wafer thin. It's funny because it's so rich in color. It looks like watermelon or something. It looks like wafer thin watermelon.
Mm.
And I put it in my mouth. I expected to have to at least chew it a little bit. It just melts. You could almost swallow it. It was almost refreshing. It was so juicy, and it was like a
Oh
cold
nice.
belly meat, but it was very, very nice. Yeah, so light. You could eat that so much and just feel like you haven't eaten anything. It
Mm.
was just that light.
You started your YouTube channel basically you know, as you started the diet, like that first video you said was 3 weeks in. Yeah. Um what are you hoping for the channel going forward?
Honestly, what? So this 8 months ago, I went carnivore. I think the YouTube channel's been up for around about 4 months. So it took me a while, to even get going with it. But that's the first video in terms of how old it is.
Mm.
That's the first video that's on there. Um, the whole idea really is that I've been through. what I've been through with my gut, and I had very little information out there to help me avoid that. And so I just thought it's much more worthwhile, and it justifies me going through what I went through if I can do something about this, help other people avoid it. So the main thing for me is obviously Crohn's and colitis, because the diet absolutely works for those people. It's non-inflammatory, it's nutrient dense, and you're going to relieve your body of those symptoms and get yourself out of trouble, potentially get off medications, and certainly avoid surgeries. And then the other demographic is obviously people that suffer from mental health and depression. Just because I've been through those, I know that, how ugly they are when you're living them, and just that this diet can eradicate those issues. Maybe not for everyone, but I would argue that 99% of people with Crohn's and colitis, I'm not saying it's a cure, but it's the closest thing. Some people don't flare anymore when they go carnivore. So to me, that's basically a cure. Like if you never flare again, that you've just cured essentially your IBD. There's apparently no cure for that. So my thing is really to get online and be as accurate as possible, helpful as possible, and get people off of meds and avoid surgeries with Crohn's and colitis, and just help people potentially treat their depression using diet. I know there's so many other factors which I might touch on here and there, but that's the goal. I mean, I'm not in it for money. I'm not in it for. I don't even have really any goals. I haven't even thought about that. It's interesting because I haven't really thought about it as a short-term or a long-term goal. I'm only just making content that I hope is accurate and helpful. That's basically my thing. So,
well, I mean, something I've noticed recently is that your editing is really good.
Oh, thanks.
You're really good at editing the videos. Like the first video I found of yours was the one about fat and sugar.
Right.
And that's just a masterpiece. It's awesome. Yeah. And
I really old equipment.
Yeah. I think
honestly, it stresses me out because I sometimes have so much information on there, and then it slows down and it tells me, I need to get rid of stuff. And I'm like, well, I've got rid of everything I can't. Yeah, it's really. I've got like this 6-year-old laptop and a pretty bad phone. That's what I'm using. And then everything else is just time and the editing and things like that. It's all on iMovie. I do it for free,
Oh, and that's on iMovie.
Yeah. I grab clips off YouTube and images. Do some research, get the data, maybe write a bit of a script or have a structure in mind, and then it's just find the music, and certain things help it fall into place. Yeah, it's a passion of mine. I quite like that. I like the creative element. It's something about the creative element of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, that and some of the other ones I've seen lately with kind of the mashups of all the different doctors talking about stuff, and they're really well done.
Nice, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. So regarding the channel, how do people find you?
Well, I'm pretty much just on YouTube now. So Kent Carnivore is the name, being that I live in Kent, and I'm a carnivorous eater. So that's pretty much it. I used to have a Facebook. I used to have other things. I just it's funny. I just intervened on myself in such a big way. I gave up the alcohol, gave up the carbohydrates, and I just deleted my social media. So I live a very different life to what I did, even 8-9 months ago. They're very, very different life. But yeah, you can message me. I have got an email on there on my about section. So yeah, reach out. It's not a problem. I try and respond to absolutely everybody.
Awesome. So I'll link to your channel in the description. Nice. Is there anything else you wanted to share? No.
No, I can't think of anything. We've pretty much touched on it all. I think even the fact that I've mentioned Tourette, my potential Tourette's that's never been diagnosed is something that I didn't think I was going to talk about. So yeah, I can't think of anything else.
Awesome. So just before we sign off, look, you said that your next operation is not scheduled in yet.
No, I'm still waiting on dates. It's a funny thing, really. This has been on the cards for 7 years. Obviously, we had that little strange pandemic that stuck things and backed things up. Yeah. The NHS is very, very busy right now. And it wasn't, I reckon, don't know, what was it, 6 or 7 months ago that I tried to get the ball rolling again. And they said it wouldn't be a year, but I mean, it looks like it potentially could be a year of waiting. I don't know, but any day, you know, hopefully I'll receive a letter and I'll have dates, and that way I can prepare better. You know what I mean? It's difficult when you don't know. You know what's coming potentially, but you haven't got the dates, and so it's very difficult to organise and get your head around it properly.
Yeah.
So you know, when that happens, yeah, I'll have to switch gears in my brain and get the finances in order and everything, and prepare for that.
Yeah. Well, we wish you all the best when it does come around, and
Appreciate it. Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, it's in
And
their
look,
hands.
yeah, I really appreciate you coming on, Lee. It's been a
No,
pleasure
thanks
to
for the
talk to
invite,
you.
man. Cheers.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Guys, thanks for watching. Please don't forget to click like and subscribe. And if you enjoy my videos and you'd like to support the channel, consider becoming a channel member. Click the join button under this video or the first link in the description. Thanks again, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video.